everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I thought I would make November's wrap-up a little bit more interesting than the usual wrap-up because instead of just telling you guys the books that I read, I'm also going to talk about the TV shows I finished and the movies I watched. So I have several things to go through. Let's just jump right in. Before I get into the books that I actually did read, I first want to talk about the 2 books that I DNF'd this month. I feel a little bad for DNFing these books, but I just didn't want to read them, so I'm not going to force myself to read a book I don't like. I used to do that. I used to finish every single book that I started, and that is just not good for you, because if you don't like something, don't force yourself to finish it. So, the first book that I DNF'd is The Wedding Date by Jasmine Gilroy. Here she is. I bought this book over the summer. It was only $3, so I'm not that mad that I spent money on it. Basically, the plot is that these 2 people get stuck in an elevator together, and the guy convinces the woman to be his wedding date because he's going to like his best friend's and his ex-girlfriend's wedding. His best friend and ex-girlfriend are marrying each other and he's the best man, so he wants to show up with a date. I read 1 chapter. I read a whole 12 pages of this book and then I put it down. I just did not like it. First of all, everything that I was excited for happened in the first chapter. They got stuck in an elevator, they met, he asked her to be his date, and got unstuck from the elevator all within 12 pages. So it was just too fast-paced. I did not like the writing style. I just did not care for it. If you love this book and you think that it is worth it, let me know down in the comments if I should give it another try. But based off the first chapter, I was like, no. Thank you, next. The other book I DNF'd is Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I know that I will one day, eventually, come back to this book, but I was just not feeling it right now. It was just so hard to read. I don't want to read something like this when I'm stuck in quarantine, you know? I want something that's quick to read, something easy peasy. Maybe not as quick to read as this, but not something as dense as a Jane Austen book. So I'll read her another time. Fun fact about me, I've only ever read 1 Jane Austen book, and that was Pride and Prejudice. Basic, yes. I'm just not really into the old books, you know, books from like the 1800s, they're just like, not my thing. We don't vibe. Okay, now that we did the books that I did not finish, let's talk about the ones that I did finish. Okay, this month I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. I read 6 books this month. That's pretty good. 6 books is a pretty decent amount. Plus I'm currently reading 2. Let's pull out the books that I read this month. Oh, here's the stack of books I read. The first book I read this month I talked about in my previous wrap-up because I was currently reading it while I filmed my last wrap-up video, and that is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Since I talked about it so much in this video, I'll put it up top. This is a murder mystery about a troupe of thespians at a very prestigious arts college. They put on Shakespeare plays and one of their castmates die, and it's just kind of a whodunit kind of thing. I loved it. First of all, I loved it. You learn about all these different characters, and what's so interesting about this book is that these characters are so embedded in the archetypes that they play on stage that sometimes they lose the boundary between themselves and their character archetypes that they play. It's just very interesting how this author looks at how it affects the actors, because it really does. It gets in their head about the way that they should act, and it's just good. My complaint with this is they're always quoting Shakespeare. I hate Shakespeare. If you're on my page, you probably know that by now. I just don't like Shakespeare. Not a fan. So I don't know why they're constantly quoting Shakespeare. That kind of annoyed me, to be honest, but it's fine. I do recommend this book. I thought it was excellent. Go check out this book. So good. Next on the list, we read By the Book by Amanda Sellett. I originally was so excited to read this book. I thought that it was about a girl in college, so I was like, yes, a good contemporary book about a girl in college, a cutesy romance, just what I want. No, she's actually not in college. She's a sophomore in high school. Like, it's fine. I still read about high schoolers, and most of the time I enjoy them, but I just did not want to read about a high schooler when I read this book. I wanted to read about someone my age. This is a whole thing for me. I really want to get more new adult books out there because us college kids were just in this weird limbo, you know? Anyways, if you're a high schooler, I do not mean to offend you. I was a high schooler once too. Besides the age problem, this book was very cute. The story follows a young girl, what is even her name? I forgot her name. Oh, Mary. A young girl named Mary, and she has read all of the classics. Every classic book you can imagine, she's read it. So she knows all the character archetypes. And this leads her to kind of be a romance guidance counselor kind of thing for her friend. She tells her friends all about the different kinds of boys, who to avoid, what's good, you know, why they're problematic, whatever. And she bases all of her knowledge off of the old classic books that she has read. It's a cute premise. She ends up falling in love with one of the boys that of course she thinks is bad, and then of course she realizes that maybe he's really not bad. Maybe instead of just judging books by their cover and what you think you know, you should actually get to know the person. You know, just one of those basic stories. Overall, it was cute. The third book I read this month was the absolute best book I have read maybe even all year. Oh my gosh, so good. I'm so happy I finally read this, and that is The Princess Bride by William Goldman. The Princess Bride, as I'm sure you guys all know, is a very, very famous movie. I think it was made in the 80s. I loved The Princess Bride as a kid. We would watch this movie all the time. It's absolutely hilarious. It is so good. If you have not seen The Princess Bride, go watch it right now. It's amazing. So even though I grew up on the movie, I had never read the book. It didn't even occur to me that it was a book until a couple years ago when I saw this in a bookstore, and I was like, was it based off of a book, or did they write a book about the movie? Well, the movie is based off of a book, as per usual. So I picked this book up like 2 years ago. I think I bought it the summer after I graduated high school. And I was like, I'm gonna read this eventually because I know it's gonna be funny and good. But I just never picked it up until now, and I'm so happy I did because it's so funny. The author of the book wrote the screenplay for the movie, so it's almost line for line. There are a couple scenes and a couple things that are changed because obviously you can't fit an entire book into a 2-hour movie, or a less than 2-hour movie. So some things are changed, but overall, it's the exact same. So I was having such a good time. A bunch of my sticky notes are like, yes, my favorite line from the movie. If you don't know what The Princess Bride is about, it is a fairy tale. It's a story of romance and adventure, and it's satirical, it's hilarious, it is absolutely hilarious. And the writing in this book is just, oh, it's just gold. I can't believe I've never read it before. So this has quickly become one of my favorite books. It's one of my favorite movies, so no surprise there. If you want something fun to read, read this. If you watched the movie and you love the movie, check out the book too. 10 out of 10 would recommend The Princess Bride. The book that I read next, I read When Diplomat Rishi. I'm not entirely sure if Rishi is how you pronounce this guy's name, but it looks like that to me, so that's how I'm saying it. So this is just a cutesy little romance book of sorts. This follows two characters who have just graduated high school, and the summer before they start college, they go to a summer program for web designers. Our main character, Dimple, wants to design an app and be a web designer. Like, that's her goal, super smart girl. So she goes to this summer program just to do that, to design her app. And while she's there, she meets Rishi, who is actually there because his parents and Dimple's parents have been talking and want them to get married. They are Indian, and part of Indian culture is arranged marriages. That looks different in modern times. It's not like the kids have, you know, no say. It's just like, this is a good family, you should see if you're compatible with the girl, and then if you two like each other, you should get married. One of those kinds of things. It's not like, you will marry him, you know, just to clear the air. So they meet, and obviously Dimple is like, my parents didn't tell me about you. This is just so like them to ignore all my wishes and desires. I don't want to focus on marriage. I don't even know if I want to get married. I just want to make my app. And he's like, okay, I'll leave you alone. And then of course they end up falling in love. They find that, oh, maybe that person's not really so bad. Maybe we can be friends. And then friends goes to something more. And it's just a cutesy little book. That's all. And the final two books I read are companion novels to each other. We have Prince Charming and Her Royal Highness, both by Rachel Hawkins. These books I flew through. They're super easy to read and very enjoyable. So the first book, Prince Charming, follows a young girl named Daisy. She is from Florida. She's just living her casual life, but then her sister gets engaged to the Prince of Scotland, and it kind of turns their world upside down, and she has to go over to Scotland for the summer and learn all about the royals and how to live as a member of the royal family. It's just a cute book about her time in Scotland and all the royal people that she meets and things. So this was cute. And then the companion novel follows a girl named Millie, who is also an American, and she goes to Scotland for boarding school. And while she's at boarding school, she ends up being placed in the same room as the Princess of Scotland. So Millie and Flora, who's the Princess of Scotland, are roommates, and they become friends, and once again it's just about an American kind of like learning the ropes of what it's like to be surrounded by royal people in Scotland. So these are just super fun. They're like quirky little cute reads. I will say that these books aren't always consistent. There were some things that I was like, this doesn't fit the timeline. They would say something happened a year ago when actually it happened like a month ago. I'll let it slide this time. Oh, my sister sent me a video of my dog. See my puppy? Alright, now that we've talked about the books that I did not finish, the books that I actually read, let's talk about the ones that I'm currently reading. So first of all, we have First Comes Love by Emily Giffin. This book is basically just a story about sisters and family relations. It's kind of heavy. It's interesting. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm very curious to see how it's going to go since I don't really know what the overall plot is. I just know that it's about, you know, two sisters and probably just them like confronting all their baggage and then becoming friends, if I had to guess. So there's that one. And the other book I'm reading is actually an exciting one because it's an audiobook. I have never listened to an audiobook before, but I'm trying, and so far it's not bad. The book I am listening to is The German Midwife by Mandy Rothbaum. This is the book that I am reading for my book club. So this book is about a woman who is a midwife. She is living in Germany during the time of the Nazi regime, and her family does not support Hitler or the Nazi party, so they get thrown into concentration camps. And then she gets taken out of the concentration camps and is sent to a high-profile Nazi house thing, and there she is expected to deliver the child of Hitler. Hitler got one of his inside circle people pregnant. She's wrestling with, what do I do? Like, this is Hitler's baby, this is a problem. But also her duty as a midwife to take care of the newborn and the mother. It's really not the vibe that I want right now, and I'm trying to be Christmassy, but it is a very good story. The writing is beautiful. I think this author is very talented, so I would recommend this book. I will say that I think the plot is built on very shaky foundations, because why would Hitler pull someone out of a concentration camp to be the midwife for his baby mama? You know, like, it just, the whole plot doesn't make sense. Besides that point, it's a good book. Maybe that will be explained later on. I don't know. I've only read through chapter 26. I think I'm about halfway through the book. I don't know. I'll fill you guys in more in my December wrap up when I finish that book. Alright, I'm afraid this video is going to be really long, so I'm going to go through these next things quickly. Now that we've talked about the books, let's talk about the TV shows and the movies I've watched in November. So first of all, with TV shows, I finally finished Schitt's Creek. I have been watching Schitt's Creek since like, I don't even know, like April maybe March. Schitt's Creek has just been one of those shows that I put on in the background while I'm working and doing other things, so it was never really a priority for me to finish it. But I got kind of bored a couple weeks ago, and I was like, let's just finish it. So I finally finished, and it was so good. Schitt's Creek is so cute. It's hilarious. If you haven't watched Schitt's Creek yet, go do so. It's about a rich family that loses their family fortune and has to live in a motel in a small town. It's hilarious. Such a good show. The next show I watched is The Queen's Gambit. I watched this show with my boyfriend. We finally found a show that we could watch together because our tastes are very different. The Queen's Gambit takes place in like the 1960s, and it's about a young woman who is really good at chess. She's like a chess prodigy, and you just watch her as she grows up and gets better and better at chess, and soon becomes like the US champion and the world champion, and you know, she's just really good at chess. It sounds boring, but it was actually very entertaining. It's a limited series on Netflix, so it was only like 10 episodes, something like that. And the other show my boyfriend and I watched is Dash and Lily. This show is so cute, it's so good. If you don't know, or if you haven't heard about Dash and Lily, the TV show, is based off of the book Dash and Lily's Book of Dares. I can't remember who wrote it, but I'll insert a picture of the book right here. I read this book maybe 2 years ago. I was like, I just gotta watch the TV show because it was so cute. The premise of this book is you follow two high schoolers during the Christmas season. The girl is alone because her family left for Christmas, and the boy is just a Christmas Grinch. He doesn't like Christmas. And they start communicating to each other through a little notebook, and they send each other on dares. And you know, eventually they meet, fall in love, and it's cute and Christmassy. It's adorable. There is a sequel to the book called 12 Days of Dash and Lily. I honestly don't remember anything about that book because it wasn't very good, so I would just skip the sequel. Just read Dash and Lily's Book of Dares and that'll be enough. We finished that in like 2 days because there's only like 8 episodes or something like that. It was really cute. And then there are 3 movies that I want to talk to you guys about. They're all Christmas movies, actually. So the first movie I watched is The Princess Switch 2. If you did not watch Princess Switch, the first movie last year, then you're missing out. Not really, it's really not very good, but you should watch it just for fun. So the premise of the first Princess Switch movie is Vanessa Hudgens plays 2 characters. One is a royal duchess or something of a made-up country, and the other is just a basic girl from Chicago who bakes. And the basic Vanessa from America goes to this made-up country to compete in a baking competition, and while she's there she runs into the other Vanessa and they're like, we look just alike. It's like that Spider-Man meme when they're like, oh yeah, that. And so then they switch places so they can get a feel for each other's life. Whatever. So they switch places, they end up falling in love while they're in switched places, and you know, blah yada yada. Whatever. Happy Christmas stuff. Yay. It's a very cheesy movie. Well, the second Princess Switch brings in yet another Vanessa. So now there are 3 Vanessa Hudgens running around on stage, and this new Vanessa is the cousin of the royal Vanessa. So the cousin decides that she wants to be crowned queen because she has run out of money. So she like comes up with this whole plan to switch places with the royal Vanessa. But what happened is she kidnapped the wrong Vanessa because the original 2 Vanessas switched places again. And then the 3rd Vanessa comes in thinking she's switching places with the royal Vanessa, but it's actually the American Vanessa. So then they're all 3 switched, you know. So that was just a stupid movie, but it's a fun time. Okay, moving on. The next movie I watched is even worse than that. It was so bad, and that is Christmas with the Prince. I don't know what year this movie came out, maybe like 2018. It must be like a Netflix original or something, I don't know. But it was awful. My boyfriend and I watched it, and it's so bad. I don't even know what the plot of this movie was, to tell you the truth. So you have just your basic American doctor. She's a pediatrician. She's doing her business, working in the hospital, taking care of the kids. And like her brother or something, he's like, hey, remember my friend, the prince of wherever? They never tell you where the prince is. He's just called Prince Alexander. I don't know where he's from. No one knows. Anyways, the brother of the doctor is like, hey, remember my friend Prince Alexander who I went to boarding school with? Well, he broke his leg skiing here in the United States and he needs a safe place to stay while he heals from his broken leg. So he's going to stay here in your wing of the hospital since no one will suspect that he's staying with the children. And she, of course, doesn't want to at first. She's like, he's so just annoying, blah, 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 whatever. Well, of course, they end up falling in love and it's super cute and magical. But then the plot doesn't even stop there. It keeps going. I don't know. But here, besides the terrible plot and the terrible acting and the terrible script, there's many things wrong with this. My big question is, why on earth would you stay in the hospital for a couple weeks when you broke your leg? Like, what? We've all known people who have broken their legs and you just go, you get your cast on, and then you leave. Maybe like a day if it's really bad. I don't know, but that was very stupid. And the final movie I watched, I actually enjoyed, and that is Holiday, which I think is another Netflix original. It's about these 2 people, a boy and a girl, who are both single and lonely, and they decide to be each other's holiday, which means that they go as each other's dates for all the major holidays so that no one has to spend a holiday alone. And of course, by the end of the movie, they've fallen in love. So I think that's it. I think that's everything I've done in the past month, which is pretty good. 6 books plus the 2 I'm reading, plus 3 TV shows and 3 movies. A productive month if I do say so myself. Stay tuned for more videos. Hopefully they will be Christmassy themed or something interesting. I don't even know. I'm just, taking it day by day because that's what happens when you get corona. Your life gets a little upset for like 2 weeks and you can't do any of your plans, but it's fine. Okay, that's enough for now. This video is going to be really long. I'm sorry. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you have book recommendations or TV show or movie recommendations, leave them down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and also subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any more of my videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!